I bet some of you are thinking, if only Biden hated the Taliban as much as he does Republicans or the unvaccinated, then perhaps this whole thing could have been prevented. And welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Ben. Please like and subscribe and share my content because hopefully you'll find it useful. Anyways, getting into things. It's been a while since I've made a video. It's been a little bit. We've had a break. Been busy with work and whatnot. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few different topics. We're going to start off with the Afghanistan disaster. Perhaps the greatest foreign policy blunder our nation's ever seen. Then we're going to get into vaccine mandates and the southern border and how are they connected. And then I guess finally we'll get into the California recall election and the mail-in ballots. Okay, once again, dun dun dun. So getting started, the Afghanistan disaster. What in the fuck? Okay, look, I was all about pulling troops out of Afghanistan, all about it. Okay. As you might remember, I keep hearing the Biden administration and Biden himself blaming the previous administration for their exit strategy, which at least they had one, right? But blaming them for setting a May 21st deadline to exit Afghanistan. But if you recall, if you remember, if you do your research, under Trump, we were actually supposed to leave Afghanistan years ago. He wanted to start leaving as early as 2019, people. Okay, he had exit dates all the way from 2019 up until this year. Why didn't we exit, you might ask? I don't know. A fair-minded person might wonder, why didn't we exit during any of those dates? Because the conditions on the ground weren't met. I don't know if any of you remember, but a few years ago, Trump dropped a thing called the MOAB, the mother of all bombs, on Afghanistan because they didn't keep up with their part of the agreement and they actually killed a U.S. soldier or a U.S. service member. I'm not sure what branch they were in. So in retaliation, we dropped the mother of all bombs, killed hundreds of Taliban, and we stayed there until the conditions were met, until they started to respect their end of the deal. Okay? So we weren't going to leave under Trump until the conditions on the ground were met. He proved that time and time again. So what the Biden administration is trying to do is they're trying to suggest that they were forced to follow the Trump timeline and when we're going to leave. And that's why the whole catastrophe happened, which is complete bullshit. Trump himself didn't follow his previous deadlines because, once again, he had something called an exit strategy. Okay, he knew we're not going to leave until the conditions on the ground were actually met, the Taliban honoring the peace agreement. Now, that may never have happened. That might not ever have happened. We might still be there right now under Trump, but I guarantee these service members that lost their lives a few weeks ago would also still be alive. We would also still control the airspace in Afghanistan if Trump was in office. And also, we wouldn't have lost, what name is that fucking airfield? Bagram Airfield, okay? Wouldn't have lost that either under Trump because he's not stupid. We also wouldn't have left billions of dollars worth of American equipment there for the Taliban to have. So, yeah, I guess Biden did want to build back better. He did, but it just wasn't our country. He wanted to build the Taliban back better, apparently. It's a complete clusterfuck in Afghanistan. It's not even defendable. In fact, Biden can't even defend his own actions. So what they're doing is they're blaming, they're holding up a straw man argument. They're trying to blame Trump, even though they didn't follow through with any of Trump's other deadlines. What about Trump's deal with Russia and their pipeline? I mean, if Biden, by following that logic, okay, if the Biden administration has to follow everything that Trump set out, then why did they reverse the plan on the pipeline in Russia? Why did they reverse that? I mean, you got to follow everything that Trump did, right? But what about the sanctions we had on Russia? The sanctions we had on China? I mean, if you got to follow everything that Trump laid out, if you're going to blame it all on Trump, then you got to follow everything. By that same logic, you got to follow everything that Trump did. But he's obviously picking and choosing. Biden went against his own advice from his own intelligence apparatus and did his own thing. He owns it. He's trying to pass the buck on to Trump. Weak. Let's get into these vaccine mandates, okay? So as of a little bit ago, like I guess a week or so ago, apparently Biden is going to try to force, through OSHA, he's going to try to force any corporation, any company that has over 100 employees to be vaccinated, regardless whether they have antibodies or not from previously contacting the virus. right? As we know, as science is determined. But when you have antibodies from already recovering from the virus, you're already more safe than someone who has just been vaccinated, right? That's common sense. It's been displayed multiple times in multiple studies. Anthony Fauci couldn't even dispute this. Anthony Fauci couldn't even answer the question of why someone who's already had the virus would need to be vaccinated. He said, I don't know. That was a quote, by the way. Okay, so if you've already had the virus, being forced to be vaccinated is just flat out stupid. Okay, especially now that we know the risks and the side effects, that it doesn't apply to a lot of people, but it does apply to some people. People under 35 years old having heart conditions, things like that. It's kind of rare, but it's happened. So there are side effects that's not being talked about. And nobody is talking about people who have already recovered from the virus, having antibodies and forcing them to take the vaccine. That's just stupid. It's anti-science, and not even King Fauci can refute that shit. So why do I link that to the southern border? Okay, because as you know, as everybody who knows who doesn't live under a rock, you guys know that these illegals that are coming in, flooding in by the hundreds of thousands across our southern border, these illegals, none of them are vaccinated. They're not being forced to be vaccinated. None of them. Okay, so they're allowed to come in. They're being bussed. Some of them are being bussed into my home state of Indiana. And they're also going to other states, like even Ohio, even Wyoming, South Dakota, you name it. So they're busting them all over the United States. And it just so happens to be in a lot of GOP areas. And they're all unvaccinated. And they're obviously helping to raise the COVID numbers for a political narrative. How do people not see this? I mean, either you're an anti-vaxxer or you're not. Isn't that right, Joe? Wasn't it Joe and Kamala that were first against taking the vaccines? Maybe they really are anti-vaxxers. So their actions prove that they don't believe in the bullshit that they're selling you about the vaccine, apparently. But they're bussing in hundreds of thousands of unvaccinated illegals. And they're releasing them into red states, largely. And by the way, there's another story that came out that Press Secretary Jen Psaki was recently asked about, is why are they withholding COVID vaccinations from red states like Florida? So they're giving us more COVID positive patients, and they're withholding vaccinations. They're withholding the vaccines. Now, look, whether the vaccines are safe or not, that's up to you to decide. Personally, I was vaccinated, okay? If I know now what I knew then, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I am fully vaccinated, and my family will not be vaccinated. But the rest of my family, I'm not letting them get vaccinated. Okay, I'm not letting them do it because it's just, we don't know enough about it right now. If I would have known what I know about it now, I probably would have had second thoughts. Okay, I had no side effects. Okay, I already had the virus early on when it first started, when we know that it officially first started, right? I already had the virus. So really it made no sense for me to be vaccinated. I did. I had no side effects for it, and I'm fine. But nobody in my household is getting vaccinated until we know more about this, know more about the side effects. We're going to do our own research and make our own decisions. They claim to care about COVID so much that they're flooding in hundreds of thousands of unvaccinated illegals, putting them into red states, and then, by the way, giving us fewer vaccines. Does that sound like good policy? Okay, Jen Psaki couldn't answer that question. She was asked and she brushed it off like she did everything else. Is it incompetence that we're seeing? You know, the time for arguing, the time for debate, it's over. I'm done talking to these people. Okay, we've single-handedly watched Biden destroy this entire country in 8 months. He's brought this country down to unrecognizable levels of stupidity, incompetence, embarrassment. Okay, stuff we've never seen under any other administration we're witnessing right now. There's no more time for argument. There's no more time for debate. Okay, what happened has happened. We need to get these fuckers out of office as soon as we can. Okay, but the problem is we may not, because of our next topic, the California recall election and mail-in ballots. Gavin Newsom, somehow, this guy, I think over 60 or 70% of Californians, yes, that includes Democrats, wanted this motherfucker recalled. They wanted him recalled, okay? Somehow, some way, with the magical mail-in ballot fairy, okay? This guy got more support in 2021 millions of more votes than when he was originally elected in 2018. Riddle me that shit. Explain to me how the worst governor by every measurable metric, every metric you can measure a governor by, the economy, homelessness, poverty, healthcare, this guy is a failure. He's let down more Californians than any other governor in the history of their state by every metrics you can measure his performance by. Yet he still gets millions of more votes than he got when he was originally elected. How's that possible? How is it possible that the black man, Larry Elder, who's running against him, was trying to have a rally, and he was having a racist liberal in a monkey mask throwing eggs at him, and not one network did a story on it. Nobody talked about it. Didn't meet the news anywhere. Nobody gave a flying fuck about this liberal racist piece of shit in a monkey mask throwing eggs at a black candidate for governor. That's a disgrace. That's a disgrace to your state, and every person that voted for Gavin Newsom is a hypocrite. You're the worst shithole of a state in the entire nation. California is like a third world country. You guys are just a little bit below Afghanistan at this point, okay? You guys have more homelessness, more poverty than any other state that I can think of off the top of my head. And honestly, it's more dangerous than being in Afghanistan at this point. Because now it's legal to commit crimes. You jackasses can run into any store and steal up to like $999 worth of stuff, and you can't even be stopped. That shit's got, and normally I guess I would give a shit, but you dumbasses voted for this. Now, do I think all the votes were legit? No. I think mail-in ballots are a complete joke. It's a sideshow. I think the election was a lot closer than that. But I also think a majority of you motherfuckers still voted for Gavin Newsom. If you did, shame on you. Okay? If you want to debate me on this, call in. Message below this video. Debate me on this. I'll debate any one of you. I'll debate any three of you at the same damn time. You guys are morons for buying into this shit. For thinking that Larry Elder is the face of white supremacy. Are you fucking kidding me? You guys are morons. I could go on and on about all the issues plaguing this nation right now. I'm going to go ahead and cut it short right now, okay? I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. I'm done for right now. Stay tuned to the next video. Hopefully I'll have some guests next time. As always, stay informed, folks.